Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. We're really excited to have you all here and talk a little bit about what's going on in construction technology and how it's evolved over the years. My name is Shahrukh Arif. I'm the head of product here at FlashTrack, and joining me today is Dennis Stejskal. He's the director of c- construction solutions at Sage. Sorry, Dennis. Everyone probably knows you already. I don't know if I need to go through the whole introduction, but Dennis has 40 years of experience working in construction technology. He's responsible for the design of Sage 300 CRE, which is formerly known as Timberline. He's involved to this day with several of the interoperability national groups. And I think recently Sage was excited to announce that they're a member of the ABC Tech Alliance with organizations like us at FlashTrack and other great technology companies. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Shrook. And excited to be here. Technology and construction is definitely growing. I think we're on the edge of a next generation of software here, which we're going to talk about today, and it's exciting.
Awesome. So our topics today are going to be three key topics we're going to focus on. First, we'll talk about the market landscape and how construction technology has been evolving over time. Then we'll move and start talking a little bit about integrations. And then we'll kind of end talking about different cloud offerings and kind of the growth and value that cloud solutions offer to the construction market. So moving right into the market landscape, there's been an incredible growth of funds within Contech over the past to 20 years or so. So we can see here between 2009 and 2018, there was $4.3 billion raised in funding for different Contech firms. And as of right now, 78% of construction companies are in the process of integrating technology within their organizations or putting plans together to integrate technologies within their organizations. So not only are we starting to see an increase of interest in Contech, we're also seeing that construction organizations are actively adopting the technologies that they're seeing out there. So if we think about that for a second, and Dennis, from your perspective, what do you think has been the main driver of the external interest in Contech as well as the interest from construction organizations in technology?
Yeah, it's a variety of things coming all together. The cloud definitely has a major impact, and it started many years ago, but it's reached a new level. People are trusting the cloud. We're using cloud in our personal lives. No one goes out and grabs a map anymore. They Google Map, Google Maps or whatever. They find where they're going. No one checks the movie, the paper to see what's playing at the movie. It's going out, and we're using it in our personal business. How just think of the boom in shopping and the boom in consumer spending over the internet. It's crazy. So we've gotten to this point where we trust it, and if we think about construction, we're the jobs aren't in our office; they're out in the field, and so the ability to connect to those jobs has driven a lot of it. And it started back in the dot-com booms with the operations systems picking up the whole concept of the project management system. Constructware started 2000. Procore started a little bit after that, and so the operations people said, well, we're out here in the field. We need to communicate, and we need to communicate first and foremost with the office. And then, though, it evolved. Well, we need to communicate with our project partners, and we need to share drawings. We need to communicate in a variety of ways, so that they started to do that. And the out of the gates, it wasn't back office accounting ERP systems. It was all operations things. And then we started moving forward, and we started seeing it up here in the finance area. And I think a lot of it was led by banking, just the need to do online banking that has driven a lot of it. So there's so many little pieces, but it's confidence, it's trust, it's the ability to say, yep, there is a solution now. And you talked about what's driving some of the investment. Well, that people demand's driving it, and innovation, and demand, where there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. I think you can help me communicate, and so they're driving us to it. The market's driving us.
Yeah, those are all great points. And I love how you mentioned that technology is ubiquitous in our day-to-day lives, right? And so there's this feeling that people sometimes have in construction that, hey, people aren't interested in technology in construction, or maybe construction companies aren't interested. And what I say back to them is, people are using Facebook, they're using LinkedIn, they're shopping on Amazon on their phone,
Mhm.
right?
Sure.
And one of the values that some of the newer providers can bring these companies that have showed up in the past 10 years is that their user experience can kind of match what people are used to doing in their personal lives, right? So then
Oh
it
yeah,
makes it
yeah.
easy to connect each other, but it becomes easy to use as well. So you don't have to spend a bunch of time trying to learn how to use the tool or how to involve it in your process.
Yeah, and big retail partners are getting into that. The Home Depot's got systems that allow you to order, from the job site. United Rentals got some really great solutions out there to let you order and stage up equipment from the job site. Um, Milwaukee Tools, with some of their technology, they're building technology right into their pieces of equipment, so they know where that $1,000 saw is sitting, and they can actually track it. And so all these things are all coming together, but they're all connected. They're all needed the internet to connect them, because if the internet wasn't there, I really don't think a lot of these things would be happening. So do agree 100%.
And you mentioned, how it started on the job site. I recently went to the AGC IT show up in Chicago. I think it was last month, and it is just
Hmm.
impressive how many
Yeah.
different pieces of technology you see connected to the job site, and just how it's interacting, especially starting to enforce some of the safety standards and make sure that people who are coming on site have all the appropriate materials, and like you said, tool tracking and this sort of stuff. As you think about the evolution on the job site, moving and driving evolution of technology in the back office, how do you feel we're going to see that start to grow over the next few years?
Yeah. When I look at technology in our space, and it's not just our space, it's happening in other areas, but specifically in construction, I've seen you have an accounting system, and many years ago, back in the 90s, that used to be the hub of everything, and the Sages of the world, the Timberlines of the world, the Viewpoints of the world. We're going to build it all, and we're gonna do it all, and we're gonna hit the job sites, and we're just gonna do it all. And what happened then is that we couldn't keep up with it. It's hard to do it all. It's really hard. So the next big thing that happened I saw was accounting and ERP. Accounting kind of had its ERP, and then you had operational ERP systems. Those are the Procores of the world, the eSubs of the world, the eBuilders of the world. There's a variety of those. And what's happening with some of the operational systems is they're getting very verticalized. I was talking to a company today. They specialize in exterior residential contractors, be it a roofing guy, a painting guy, a siding guy, a window guy, anything to do with roofing exteriors. They specialize in that space. So we're seeing these operational systems kind of be there, because when we design software, we have to think about the roles of the people using it, and those are all operational people, and they need the special tools, they need the special. So we got these ERP systems, be it operational or be it accounting, and those cross over a little bit because they start. They do want to exchange financial data. I need to put it in a purchase order request out the job site, so they need to put in a PO rec. So those, have some degree of interoperability requirements. But then what's happening is that this verticalization is driving in what I believe many of the point systems in the world. So you got that's the third type of software I always see is one, accounting, two, operational, and three, point. And if you're building functionality around a very specific thing, number one, the investment of the cost of building that out is going to be much smaller than building out a full ERP. So the investment world is willing to invest in those small, extremely innovative solutions. And it's those point systems that are continuing to evolve on the market that in many cases, the point systems that have deeper functionality than some of the ERPs. And products like Flash Track is an example of that. There's a dozen time capture systems which are very specialized for the type of time that you need to capture in the field. Well, those need to integrate with the ERPs, and they actually integrate with the operational ERPs. So this verticalization and this driving of point systems just continues to drive the need for interoperability, the need to let these systems talk to each other. And there's all sorts of theories and models that we're going to have universal hubs and all these types of things. That's going to happen, but right now we're still connecting point to point, which is maybe not as efficient as being able to connect the entire community, but there are a number of big players in the market. So customer choice is something we believe in at Intac, is we really want to give our customers choice, and the point systems many times are what they want to choose, and that's where we're seeing a lot of that investment dollar.
Yeah, and one of the cool things I think about point systems is that they can start to help bridge the gap between accounting and operations as well, right? Like you mentioned, those two groups are traditionally sitting in their own platforms, and tools like FlashTrack and other tools and partners of ours, where for us, as an example, both the project managers and the accountants are using the tool, and they have different roles to play. But then it makes it easy to have everything in one place, as long as the data is flowing in the appropriate direction when they need it to.
Right.
And that kind of takes us into our next topic around the integrations. And so I actually think Sage was part of this survey that was done back in 2019, which was taking a look at how many construction businesses were using three or more applications. And what it found was 60% of construction companies were using three or more applications. And then you'd compare that to how many of those applications integrate in the chart on the right. And we see a shockingly high number of integrations that don't exist, where it's all being entered manually, or where there's spreadsheets coming in of one system or another system, or even what seems to be about 30%, which is custom integrations. And custom integrations, there was a lot of sessions around that at the AGC show, just around how tricky it is to manage a custom integration and the cost that goes within the cost an organization has to incur when they're trying to figure out what a custom integration can look like to be able to make these tools talk to each other. So as you think about integrations, I guess first and foremost, from your perspective, how much demand do you see for these sorts of integrated environments from your customers?
It's every day, every day. The Sage Construction just recently released a new product within the last 12 months called Sage Intech Construction, and it's been a native cloud solution since day one. And one of its really strong pillars of value is its APIs and its ability to integrate with them. And they did a similar survey, and if they did a survey of their customers, and their customers was pretty close to that average. I think it was about 2.7 had some level of integration with what is called a marketplace partner. So some sort of point solution that they needed that data to flow. And people buy software because they can have that integration. Some companies want it out of the box, and you could do that if it's two industry leading products. You can get that integration in place. Some companies do have homegrown software. We see that a lot. And what's critical there is there's two sides of the integration. One is the one that's, starting the communication. One is the one receiving the communication. And one of those is probably software that you don't develop. So it's really important when you look at companies that offer integrations, what's their track record? Do their APIs break when we have releases? And so you really want to drill into that because that's a really critical piece. How easy is it to use those APIs? And again, we go back to the cloud. Um, if I've got a piece of software that's running in the cloud, it's very well protected. Most cloud-based SaaS solutions are very well protected, and they've got ways to use their APIs with encryption, with many levels of security. But when you're dealing with on-premise software, it gets a little bit harder because I don't control that. The customer's got to control the security onto that on-premise system, and it's as good as they invest. If they don't invest with the right technology, it's a little bit weaker. And so, it's really critical when you're looking at APIs that you do understand the security measures. But bottom line, uh, big demand, and it's growing from the market is expecting it these days. We're all used to getting things delivered to us. We're getting notifications automatically flowing through to us, and that's information. It's data. It's a little bit different type of data, but it's data, and we expect that to happen. Well, if I submit a payment, I expect it to get over there. So the market's driving the demand for integration. I've found that the market is it's becoming table stakes. So software companies like ours, Flash Track, ours, anyone in the space, um, has to have the aptitude and the desire to integrate. And so, critical, critical.
Yeah, it's really interesting, those points you made about APIs. It can be kind of scary as people are thinking about the security of their data, especially financial information, which is often confidential and you don't want it to end up in the wrong place. But one thing that's great about the construction industry is that integrations are going straight to APIs, right? So in other industries I've worked with, when you're adopting a new technology, now you're trying to make different XML formats map together. You're trying to work within an enterprise bus or queue system, right? And it can be pretty complicated.
Yep.
But with
Yep.
all these native cloud solutions, and we'll touch on the difference between native cloud and regular on-premise systems a little bit later, but just having these native cloud solutions coming to market with these robust APIs that are part of their regular process makes it a lot easier for people to adopt integrations and build
Yeah.
integrations as well.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that's exciting about the ABC Technology Alliance is they're working as an industry association to bring companies together, to bring software vendors. Not that we don't listen, but a lot of times it's good to kind of be hear from your peers as other software ISVs, other software companies, but also they bring us in closer contact with major players in the industry. If you look at the ABC and some of the chapter representation out there, they expose us to not just the biggest guys in the market, but ABC represents a smaller group of the smaller to mid-sized contractors. They need the technology too. This isn't just a big company's game anymore. We've got to be able to deliver that integrations down into really all levels of the market, and I think ABC is going to help us do that.
Oh, for sure. We're super excited to be part of the Tech Alliance as well and kind of, consume the information that, like you said, that's going on there and really understand what's going on. And we can see, like you said, the market demand. We can see how the API marketplace benefited Procore in terms of how they position themselves, right? And kind of their growth story. But even just at Flash Track, we hear all the time from our customers that they don't want to deal with the duplicate data entry. They don't want to deal with pulling spreadsheets in and out and that sort of stuff because they're looking at the technology to optimize their process, right? And help them scale. And frankly, any integration that isn't more automated isn't really going to work out for them at the end of the day. And so we've put, a lot of investment in making that work and finding different partners. Because at the end of the day, I think about just the credit cards we have here for our expense accounts and just how integrated that is. I swipe the card, I get a text message, I snap a picture of the receipt and reply to the text message, and my expense report's automatically created.
Yep.
Right. If they can make that work, people certainly want us to be able to push AP invoices over with relative
Yep.
ease.
Yep. And I think your point about Procore was a really great one. And if you look back, Procore was one of those operational ERP systems, and their some of their technology didn't have all the infrastructure for APIs and integrations when it first came in, and they were, in my opinion, forced to uh, build out integrations because of the point systems. The point systems were deeper in many cases of functionality that they just didn't really couldn't go that deep in, and people wanted that functionality of the point system. So, uh, the innovation, I can't speak enough about the innovation that I see in some of the point systems. It's really exciting. It's like, wow, that's way cool, and I want our customers to have access to it. So we're going to provide a level of integration for our customers can have access to it.
So Dennis, you've talked a lot about point solutions, but I know Sage, you guys have put out a cloud-based ERP now, Sage Intacct. So can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit how you've seen uh, ERPs start to move to the cloud and kind of how the market is thinking about that? Because that's kind of like moving a mountain, right?
Yeah, really it has been. And we everyone's been kind of dragging their feet a little bit, saying, will it ever happen, will it ever happen? And I was at a CFMA conference probably about 4 years ago, and that's when I walked away saying, it's coming, folks, it's coming. And there's some sort of panel up there, and they were doing asking questions and so on. And one of the questions that was asked, and I had been in a previous CFMA meeting the previous year, and the same question was asked, and it was, if you have to go and replace your servers, and if you have to go and do a major upgrade for whatever reason, maybe your software is not strong enough, maybe your hardware is dying, who knows what it is, will you evaluate the use of the cloud? And the cloud then, even 5 years ago, was still a little fuzzy what it was. And it was like from 1 year to the next, it went from like 30% of the people raised their hand and said, yeah, we will look. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like your slide there. 85% of construction want to use, they're going to evaluate the cloud. Didn't say they were going to necessarily buy it, but they're going to evaluate it. And when we see RFPs now and we see companies doing a search for a new accounting ERP system, we're seeing the cloud is one of the driving factors. And so with all that, Sage did make a major investment and acquired a company called Intact, who was a major player in the market. And I mentioned them earlier, is that they've made major investments in making sure that they've got good, solid API strategies and web services strategies to allow different types of integration. And the Intact marketplace is very similar to the Procore marketplace, where all of the partners, independent software companies that have written integrations are all published out there, and you can learn about them. And it's a major part of the offering. It's part of the product, and that's the biggest thing I think as I look and have now over the last couple of years spent more time in the cloud. It is something that you have to invest in. It is something you have to architect into the software at the very, very start, because you build software differently for the cloud, and the way you do things is different. And if you don't architect it, from the very beginning, it ain't going to work as well. And speaking from experience, we actually tried to take an on-premise system a couple times and turn it into a cloud solution. And millions of dollars later, it just really wasn't the best way to do it. And You know, do we understand integration? Yeah, we've been integrating applications for 40 years. Now, our AP system has always talked to our GL system, has always talked to our payroll system. So we know how to integrate, but we had to broaden that out. And again, that's where the cloud has given us that wire, for lack of better words, even though it's invisible. They've given us that connection point to allow us to connect with a different piece of software without having to physically pass a file. And it's a new revolution of software. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of people, like you said, they decide we don't want to take on this hardware burden. It's expensive, it's capital expenditure. And so then they work with a hosting provider or something like that to install it on a hosted application server, right? But like you said, there's a big difference between just taking the product, putting it into a hosted environment versus having a true native cloud solution. And that's one of the things about Flash Track that we like, is that we were built in the cloud and we're a native cloud solution. What that allows us to do is it allows us to scale up easier, right? A lot of times when you move an on-prem system up, one of the first things you're going to run into is scaling issues and what does the hardware sizing need to look like. True native cloud solutions like Flash Track, like Intech, like others, they can really grow with your business effectively, and you don't have to worry about the cost then, right? Or even
Yep.
care about what the hardware looks like.
Yep. And that's the one of the biggest differences is they can scale and they're built to scale. And if they need more hardware, it's you throw more hardware at it, and so you can scale these systems and share them. It's uh, part of the science that I don't totally understand, but I sit in an operations center and kind of watch this stuff. It is science. It is pretty cool. But in what they're doing though is they're bringing that technology and the ability in a true native solution. We're bringing that down to the market. We're letting them. You don't have to have your own IT company to get the results of that type of technology. That's what the software companies and the companies that we even work with do for us. The AWSs, the Azures of the world, they help us in a lot of different areas, and they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars improving it, making better. Those are dollars that none of us can spend. None of us can spend like that, and they bring that computing power and that technology really into the market. And without that, there are things that we just couldn't do. And so there is a difference between a true native cloud solution of that scalability, of that horsepower, the ability to roll out releases. I was talking to a customer today, and they said, one of the things really a pain in the butt is, when you ship out a new release and you do it, once every 6 months or something like that, it's always a hassle to have to install it. Well, true cloud solution, you go to bed on a Friday night and you wake up on a Saturday morning, you got new software. Okay. And it's rolled out to thousands of customers all at the same time. But it's even more than that. It's the mentality of the whole development cycle has to be prepared to roll out software every quarter and make sure it works for thousands of customers at the same time. So the way you develop, the way you test is just different than an on-premise solution. And is there value in a hybrid solution where you host it? Yeah, there is. We're not, maybe all of us aren't quite ready for that next level of true cloud native solution. So we go to a hybrid solution because we use it as a stepping stone. We use it as a way to protect a little bit of our perpetual investment. So there's a lot of reasons why that is a good move. And it's an easier move than, if you're going to move from an on-premise system to a true cloud solution, you're probably going through a full migration, and it is a major move. Not to scare people away, but some people are more ready for that than others, and the hybrid is a great stepping stone to kind of get the servers out of your office, let you return to building buildings and roads and clearing land rather than dealing with servers and all that kind of stuff. So that's a strategy that some people, it works for some companies.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. One point that you made earlier, I just want to touch on is the going to sleep on Friday and waking up Sunday morning and having new software and the updates. One of the cool advantages of these native cloud solutions is that it's much easier to respond to customer feedback, right? So when you're in the traditional on-prem software world, and I have a lot of experience. That's where I started my career as well. We had 2 releases a year, right? So
Yep.
throughout that 6 month period, you're talking to customers, you're hearing what they're saying, and then maybe you heard it on month 4 of 6, and therefore it's not even going to be selected for the release or contemplated for the release. Whereas now with solutions like Intact and Flash Track, I hear something from somebody this week, I can have it out in production for everybody 2 weeks from now because we have kind of a 3 week release cycle. In the past, we've had 2 week release cycles, right? And so it becomes
Yep.
really cool for the customers because they can be there. It's a tight feedback loop and they can see that companies really care about what they're saying based on is their feedback coming at a quicker pace than they saw with on-premise solutions.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other side of that, from the software publisher's perspective, supportability. Um, I've been in a customer support role within a software company, and one of the very first questions you ask is, "What version are you on?" Because when you ship out 2000, and I'm dating myself a little bit here, but when we ship out 2000 CDs, or we give the customer the optional choice to do that update, we don't it could be, I've seen customers on maintenance plans with us that, it's they're they haven't put an update on for 3 years, and it really is hard to support that. And so support on a true SaaS solution, much easier, because we know exactly what software they're looking at, and in certain cases we can kind of see things too. So there's a lot of support advantages to SaaS solutions and true cloud solutions as well.
Yeah, and like you said on the slide, we can see just kind of that growth from 16% in 2012 and 85% in 2017. And so from your perspective, Dennis, as folks are thinking about moving from an on-prem system to a hybrid or cloud solution, what do you think they should be considering as they go through that decision-making process?
Um, you know, I think software is we're seeing more specialization. So don't you definitely have to sit back and think about, what do I need? What problems am I trying to solve? And sometimes those problems can be solved with a point solution that solves that particular problem, because many times those point solutions will integrate. So make sure you have a clear definition of what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and is there a specialized version of software for it. Number two, you've got to ask about integration, and that holds true for if it's an ERP product and you're integrating and you're putting in a whole ERP system, or if it's a point solution and you're putting that in. Is there integration, and what does it truly look like, and what does it feel like? And ask it to be demonstrated. I think it's a fair thing to ask these days, because integration's a big fat word that could be interpreted a lot of different ways. So do ask, show me how that works. I was on a demo just this morning, and one of our partners is Procore, and it's actually fun to show it. I went into Procore, put it in a subcontract, and pressed the button and opened it up in Sage Intacct, and there it was. And same thing with Flash Track. You put in an invoice, and it down a little bit. You go through some processes, and up it's ready for processing now in the AP system. So, check out that integration. A lot of the integration or a lot of the innovation that I see happening today is truly in the cloud solutions, and it's happening in a variety of different ways. It's happening in how they can accumulate data from other sources and pull it in. There's a piece of software that I'm very familiar with in the custom builder remodeling area, and one of the things that custom builders, remodelers, they want to talk to their suppliers. They want to have interactions with their suppliers. So we're starting to see, those retail chains, not necessarily retail, it could be a B2B type thing as well. But we're seeing that supply chain start entering into the software. And, Sage has done a little bit of that. We got some room to grow there, but it is an area, what are your pain points? Really understand your pain points. And, those are some of the things that I think about is don't be afraid of the cloud because typically it's because you don't understand it. And, there's a lot of material out there. There's associations have a lot of data around it. There's one of the coolest things that I found, I do it all the time when I go walking and running, is all the construction talk shows that are out there where you podcasts that you can dial into, and most of them are around technology, and you really learn some cool things on some of the technology that's going on. One of the things that we're working on with an industry group called the Construction Progress Coalition is there a need in this world for a universal project ID? And how would a universal project ID serve the folks that need permits, drawings, renovations? And so there's all sorts of concepts going on. And get involved with some of these groups. They're out there. That's where the innovation is occurring. So I'll speak to ABC Technology again. Great group. Get involved with it. CFMA Technology Group. Get involved with it. You'll learn unbelievable things through these industry associations. The AGCIT forum that Shahrukh talked about a little bit earlier that was held in Chicago. Great conference. Some of those association conferences are some of the better ones there. They really have the innovators there. So explore those areas.
Yeah, I actually got to meet the Construction Progress Coalition guys at the AGC show.
Oh, did
And
you? Was
yeah,
Nathan there? Probably
yeah,
was Nathan.
Nathan was there.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I sat in one of their sessions talking about integrations, and they were kind of talking about setting these standards and stuff like that. For me is great because it makes it
Yeah.
easier for all of us to work together, right? When you have unified IDs, when people know what data to expect and when, and even having, not now, but maybe in the future, kind of a unified format, it
Yeah.
allows
Yeah.
cloud solutions to talk to each other easily, but it actually helps with cloud solutions talking to on-premise solutions too, right?
Sure.
Because then
Sure
you
it
can
does.
have a
Sure
lot
it
more
does.
reliability in how you
Yep.
send data in and behind the firewall.
Yeah. And the part that's kind of a lot of times, not I shouldn't say a lot of times, one of the things that we do at CPC is we try to understand. I almost call it part of CPC as a research organization, and we've got this protocol that we go through to kind of understand industry needs and understand the interoperability. And then we reach out, and sometimes there's already a standard in place. And we all probably, many of us have probably dealt with sureties in our construction world. And if you think about a surety, you got the surety agent, and then you got the big surety companies like Zurich and Travelers, etc. And they're independent parties, and the agents, though, is what we as contractors got to deal with. And what happened is the surety contractors, the sureties were looking for a faster way to get WIP reports, work in progress reports, because it's a lot of data. And if they can get that data and keep it relatively fresh, as well as to be able to do historical analytics against it, they can better evaluate the risk of a particular project or a contractor. So they went out and they worked with the XBRL to build a standard. Okay, so there's actually a standard already out there for passing WIP statements electronically, but the market doesn't, the consumers, the construction companies don't see the value in it yet. And so it's one of these, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And that's where CPC is trying to drill into, is to try to understand what is the value proposition to the to the contractor, and what's the value proposition to the whole community. And like I said, many times there's already a standard in place. We just got to get adoption up.
Yeah, that's interesting because in that sort of situation, it can even be us technology companies that are pushing that adoption, right?
Yeah.
And can kind of highlight the value of that. The idea of a unified project ID, that is just so cool, Dennis. I have background in consumer packaged goods. And so you can think about every Coke can you buy and cereal box and stuff like that. It all
Yep.
has one ID, and
Yep.
all the
Yep.
trading partners around the world, right, are working off of that one ID. And it seems so simple, but it streamlines so much for everybody who's involved.
Well, I will make a note to invite you to our next call, and it's been interesting. It's been really interesting. One of the things I learned, again, it's a process that goes on. Is I didn't know a lot about permitting, and there's a national registry about permits out there, and this was all built around the solar industry and the need to be able to get permits fast. So out of this groundwork effort to deal with faster permitting, there is a national registry was built that you could type in a land parcel, and it will immediately tell you who are the permitting agencies for that particular piece of land. And it's incredible. And it's concepts like that that I think are going to drive and totally change the permitting world. And this is where we get into this universal project day. It's a piece of data. And if we all can consume the data the same way, that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I'll second what you said, Dennis, for our listeners. All these different podcasts out there, the Nathan and the CPC guys, as well as some of the other guys like Jeff, who's out there putting podcasts together.
Mhm.
It's really informative stuff. It's really interesting. And it's really, I think, going to be driving the continuing of the innovation that we're seeing in construction technology.
And it's entertaining.
Yeah.
These guys have a good time. They crack up. They tell stories, and there's a number of them. If you don't listen to them, and you're into technology, like I said, most of them around technology. Now, some of them are different. I've heard a number of them about stories and interviews about women in construction. Some really great stories. So, definitely invite you to go listen to some of them.
That's great. We kind of deviated from our topic here around the
Yeah,
different
yeah.
cloud offerings that are in the market. But I hope that was informative for everyone who's attending right now. So just going back and touching back on the cloud solutions, like you said, Dennis, there's a lot of specialization. My opinion is that you see a lot of that demand grow because people are trying to solve specialized problems that they see within their process, right? So they're taking a look, they're trying to figure out what the bottlenecks are and how do they scale. Of course, with COVID this past couple of years and everyone working remotely, it's become even more important to kind of take a look at how do we connect and solve for these inefficiencies, move away from paper. But one other thing I'll say is that there's a cost advantage in cloud solutions too. And it's really great for small and medium businesses and mid-market to start taking a look at cloud solutions because you don't have to worry about that hardware investment. You don't have to worry about lengthy implementations, right? A lot of cloud solutions, Flash Track, we can get you up and running in just a couple of hours, right? And a couple training sessions. I'm sure Intact has much faster time to value than some of the on-premise solutions that Sage has. So keep these things in mind too as you're looking through it. Is that how big of a pain point is this problem to us, right? And I'm sure you'll be able to find a cloud solution that is solving that problem at a price point that makes sense based on that pain. And then
Agreed.
from Sage's perspective, right, I'm sure it's great for you guys to be able to deliver that value faster through Intact in that mid market, right?
Yeah, and it's all, we are talking, cloud solutions today, and Intech is definitely there. But we've got a lot of customers that are comfortable with where they're at, and our on-premise products are going to stay there. They're going to be in place for many, many, many years, and you've always got that that option to, okay, let's kind of let's take a small step and move our servers out and get them into a spot so we don't have to worry about, the server room in the back room flooding in case there's a flood or something like that. So you can take small steps to get there.
Great. So we're getting close to 4:30 now. So just some final thoughts then, Dennis. I mean, as we've seen and discussed, construction is to technology and construction has been constantly innovating. And one of the cool things about the construction industry that I've seen compared to other industries is that it's going to be easy for construction to kind of adopt these new technologies because there's not a lot of ripping out, right? When you're replacing, it's a much more difficult problem than when you're just bringing something net new in, because you don't have to worry about any sort of legacy processes or legacy code or data migrations and things like that. And so from me, as I think about the next 5 years in construction, I think it's going to be really exciting to see what the technology vendors come up with that can kind of help the contractors grow and optimize their businesses.
And I agree. We are in a new evolution of technology. The cloud. We're just, in my opinion, in a lot of cases, we're just starting to see what we can do with it and try to learn how to do with it. And so that's going to continue to grow and add to what's there. Specialization is again, the market demands it. If I'm a roofing contractor, I need a takeoff system for roofing. I don't need one that is used for doing landscaping. And so this area of specialization is, I think, going to continue, and that holds true from the type of industry you are in, and it also holds true to the role. An AP person who deals with AP invoices needs specialized tools, and FlashTrack is a tool like that, a very specialized tool for the purpose of, an AP agent and an AP clerk, as well as other roles. But process, software built for roles is going to be something else we're going to see. We've started to see that in the operational software, where there's more software coming out in the last 3 years that I've seen, targeted at the superintendent, not the project manager, but the superintendent. And they're rolling in concepts of, time capture and productivity all into one collection of things. So they're kind of little suites of software. So that specialization is going to occur. But like Trick said, you don't have to make giant steps. There's technology that you can adopt that solves a particular process and makes you more efficient with that process. Get that one done. But when you do that, do take into consideration, how will that thing integrate with something else down the road? And so, will that integrate if I'm running a Sage 300 solution and now I want it to integrate with Intact because I'm going to eventually swap out my ERP? Well, that's a question you can start asking the vendors today. Where's your software going to be in 3 years when I'm ready to take that particular thing to the cloud? That's a very important question. But you don't have to do it all at once. You can take small steps.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The roadmap point, right, Dennis? It's I would highly encourage everyone as they're going through software selection, don't just look at what the solution can do for you today, but like Dennis said, take a look at what they can do for you 3 years from now, or what their plans are for just the next 12 to 18 months, so that as you're going through and thinking about which vendor you want to move forward with, how are they not going to just add value to your organization right now, but how will they continue to add value as you have that long-term relationship with them?
Yep.
Well, Dennis, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes, it has. Appreciate it.
To our attendees, thank you so much for your time as well. Of course, if you had to drop off, we'll be sending out a recording. Please share with any of your colleagues who might be interested. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me directly. My email is right here. It's Shahrukh Arif at flashtrack.com. And we look forward to the next time we get to speak, Dennis.
Great, Shahrukh. I appreciate it. And I'm sure we will see you at some show, convention here in the future.
Yes, definitely. All right. I hope
All right.
everyone has a great day.
Bye now.
Bye.